My mother-in-law has a wall at home with family photos. Recently, I saw my picture in black and white with a lit candle underneath it. My mother-in-law has this big wall in her living room, a gallery of family photos that she's been curating for decades. Every birthday, every wedding, every graduation, she frames the moment and hangs it up. She's proud of it. It's like her personal museum of memories. I've always admired it. Every time I visited her house, I'd find myself scanning the wall, looking at the old photographs of my husband when he was a boy, the black and white portraits of grandparents I never got to meet, even baby pictures of my sister-in-law with her ridiculous curly hair. It made me feel like I was part of something bigger, like I belonged to their family history. But last week, everything changed. It was a Sunday afternoon, nothing unusual. My husband had gone to the store with his brother, leaving me alone with his mom. She was cooking something in the kitchen, and I was just wandering around the living room, absent-mindedly looking at the photos again. That's when I saw it. In the corner, near the bottom of the wall, where she usually placed the more recent pictures, I saw my photo. At first I smiled, thinking it was sweet of her to include me in her little shrine of memories, but then I froze. It wasn't just a normal photo. The picture was in black and white, even though the original had been taken in color. And right below it, on a small wooden table, there was a candle. A tall, white candle. Lit. I swear to you, my blood ran cold. You know how sometimes your brain takes a moment to catch up with what your eyes are seeing? That's exactly what happened. For a second, I thought maybe she was just doing some sort of decoration thing, but then the meaning hit me. In my culture, a black and white photo with a lit candle under it is a memorial for the dead, something you set up when someone passes away, and there I was. My photo, my face, my smile, on that wall, with a candle burning beneath it. I felt dizzy. My knees actually buckled for a second. I had to grab the edge of the sofa just to steady myself. I kept staring at it, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. My first thought was, is this a mistake? Maybe she just liked the black and white filter. Maybe the candle was for something else? But no. Deep down, I knew. This wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. I couldn't move. I couldn't even breathe. It was like looking at my own obituary. And then I heard her voice behind me. "Oh, you found it," she said casually, as if she had been expecting this moment. I turned around, and there she was, holding a wooden spoon in her hand, still wearing her apron, looking calm, too calm. My mouth went dry. What is this?" I whispered, pointing at the picture. She didn't answer immediately. She just tilted her head and looked at the photo, as though she were admiring a piece of art. Then, slowly, she smiled. "It's a precaution," she said softly. "A precaution? What does that even mean?" My heart was racing so fast I thought I was going to faint. Why would you put my picture like that? Why would you light a candle under it?" Her eyes met mine, and I swear there was something in them I had never seen before. Something dark. Something I can't even explain. "You don't understand now," she said, her voice low, almost soothing. "But one day, you will." And then she just walked past me, back to the kitchen, as if nothing had happened, as if she hadn't just staged a funeral portrait of me in her living room. I stood there, shaking, staring at that candle. Part of me wanted to blow it out right then and there. Another part of me was too scared to even touch it. I don't know how long I stood frozen like that, but eventually, my husband came back with his brother. The moment I heard the door, I ran to him, pulling him aside, whispering urgently, "You need to see what your mother did." He looked at me like I was being dramatic, but when I dragged him to the photo wall and pointed, his face went pale. "Mom?" he said sharply. "What the hell is this?" She just looked at him, shrugged, and went back to stirring her soup. I'll never forget the way my husband grabbed my hand that night as we drove home. He didn't say much, but I could tell he was shaken, and I could tell he didn't know how to explain his mother's behavior either. But me? I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, all I saw was my face in black and white, with that candle flickering underneath. And a terrifying thought kept echoing in my head. Was she just being strange? Or was she warning me about something? I didn't tell anyone else about the picture. Not my friends, not my coworkers, not even my sister. It felt too bizarre, too unreal to put into words. Besides, how do you even explain something like that without sounding insane? But inside, I was falling apart. For days after that visit, I couldn't get the image out of my head. The candle, the grayscale photo, the way my mother-in-law said it was a precaution. A precaution for what? My husband tried to brush it off. "She's old-fashioned," he said one night as we lay in bed. "She does weird things sometimes. You know how she is." But I knew this wasn't just old-fashioned. This was something else, something deliberate. I pressed him. "But don't you think it's strange that she picked me? Just me? There are dozens of family members on that wall. Why not your brother? Or your sister? Why me?" He stayed quiet for a moment, staring at the ceiling. Then he sighed. "Look, my mom has always been superstitious. Maybe she read something or someone told her something about you. I don't know. But I promise you, she doesn't want to hurt you." That should have comforted me. It didn't. Because deep down, I didn't believe it. The next weekend, we had to go back for a family dinner. I tried to get out of it, faking a headache. But my husband insisted, "If you don't go, It'll look suspicious. She'll think you're upset with her. Upset with her? She literally staged a memorial for me, and I was supposed to worry about hurting her feelings, but I went. Against my better judgment, I went. The whole night, I felt her eyes on me. My mother-in-law smiled and chatted with everyone else, but every time I glanced in her direction, I caught her watching me, studying me. At one point, while I was helping clear the table, she leaned close and whispered something so quietly I almost thought I imagined it. "Be careful on Tuesday." That's all she said. And then she walked away, humming to herself like nothing had happened. Tuesday? What was going to happen on Tuesday? That night, I told my husband. She said something to me. She told me to be careful on Tuesday. What does that even mean? He frowned. Are you sure? Maybe you misheard her. I wanted to scream. I'm not making this up. She looked me dead in the eye and told me to be careful on Tuesday. He rubbed his face in frustration. Okay, let's not panic. Maybe she meant something totally harmless. Maybe she was talking about the weather or your commute or maybe she knows something. I cut him off. We sat in silence after that. Neither of us said it out loud, but I could tell we were both thinking the same thing. What if she's warning you because something bad is about to happen? When Tuesday finally came, I was a wreck. I barely slept the night before, tossing and turning, convinced something terrible was waiting for me. On my drive to work, I flinched at every red light, every reckless driver changing lanes too fast. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. At the office, I jumped at every sudden sound. A door slamming, a printer jamming, it all made me flinch. My coworkers kept asking if I was okay, and I kept forcing a smile, pretending I was just tired. But deep down, I was waiting for something awful to happen. And then it did. Around 3 p.m., the fire alarm went off. The shrill, piercing sound made my heart drop. Everyone rushed out of the building in a panic, but my legs felt like they were filled with cement. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. The whole time, one thought kept repeating in my head. She knew. She knew this would happen. We all made it outside safely, thank God. It turned out to be just a small electrical fire in the break room. Nothing catastrophic. No one was hurt. But still, the coincidence rattled me. She told me to be careful on Tuesday, and something did happen on Tuesday. When I got home that evening, my husband was already waiting for me. The moment I told him about the fire alarm, his face drained of color. This is getting weird, he admitted. Maybe I should talk to her, ask her what's going on. But something inside me stopped him. No, I said quickly. Don't. Not yet. I need to find out on my own. Because the truth was, I didn't trust his mother anymore. I didn't trust her smile, her calm tone, her cryptic words, and I sure as hell didn't trust that candle burning under my black and white photo. That night, I made a decision. If my mother-in-law knew something, if she had some twisted reason for setting up that picture, I was going to find out, even if it meant uncovering something I didn't want to know. What I didn't realize at the time was that the deeper I dug, the more terrifying everything would become. After that Tuesday, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was living in some kind of twisted game I didn't understand. The black and white photo, the candle, the warning about Tuesday, it all connected somehow. I just didn't know how. So I started paying closer attention. Every time we visited my mother-in-law, I watched her carefully. The way she moved around the kitchen, the way she interacted with the rest of the family, even the way she smiled. On the surface, she looked like the same sweet, slightly strict matriarch she'd always been. But once you've seen someone put up a memorial photo of you while you're still alive, you can't unsee it. You start noticing things, like how she always lit candles in threes, except the one under my picture. It stood alone. Like how she asked me strangely specific questions like, do you ever take the train? Or, which days do you leave work late? Like how she always had her phone turned upside down whenever I was around, as if she didn't want me to see what was on the screen. At first, I thought maybe I was overanalyzing. Maybe paranoia was making me see things that weren't there. But then, one night, something happened that made me realize I wasn't imagining any of it. It was almost midnight. My husband had fallen asleep in the living room watching TV, and I was in the kitchen making tea. That's when I noticed the light on his phone blinking with a notification. Normally, I wouldn't snoop. I trusted him. But something about the timing, the eerie silence of the house, made me glance. It was a text from his mother. The preview on the screen said, "Don't tell her anything, not yet." My stomach dropped. Not yet? Not tell me what. I grabbed the phone and opened the thread. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. There weren't many messages, but the ones I did see made my skin crawl. Mill. She needs to be careful this week. Husband. You're scaring her. Stop. Mill. I'm not trying to scare her. I'm trying to prepare her. Husband. Prepare her for what? Mill. You'll see. I couldn't breathe. It was like the walls of the kitchen were closing in on me. My husband knew. He knew she was up to something, and he hadn't told me. I marched into the living room and shook him awake. Why didn't you tell me? I hissed, shoving the phone in his face. He blinked, groggy. What? What are you talking about? Don't play dumb. I saw the texts. She said not to tell me anything. What is going on? For a moment, he looked like a cornered animal. Then he rubbed his face and muttered, I didn't want you to panic. Too late for that, I snapped. Tell me the truth, right now. He hesitated. He actually hesitated. And then he said something that made my blood run cold. My mom. She went to see someone, a fortune teller. I stared at him. A fortune teller? Are you serious? He nodded, avoiding my eyes. She's always been into that stuff. Superstitions, charms, omens. You know how she is. But this time, it was different. The fortune teller told her that someone close to her family, someone new, wouldn't be around for long. It felt like the floor disappeared beneath me. She thinks it's me, I whispered. He didn't answer. And that silence was all the confirmation I needed. The next time we visited, I couldn't look her in the eyes. I couldn't stand the way she smiled at me, as if she knew something I didn't. Every word she said felt heavy, loaded with some hidden meaning. And yet, I had to play along, pretend I didn't know, pretend I wasn't terrified, but pretending only got me so far. Because a week later, I discovered something in her house that shattered whatever fragile piece I had left. We were over for dinner again. My husband and his brother were fixing something in the garage, and my mother-in-law asked me to grab a jar of jam from the pantry. Her pantry wasn't just a pantry, it was more like a storage closet, stacked with boxes and shelves of preserved food, cleaning supplies, and random old household items. I opened the door, stepped inside, and reached for the jar. That's when I saw it. On the top shelf, half hidden behind a stack of cereal boxes, was a notebook, a thick, leather-bound journal. I don't know why I pulled it down. Maybe curiosity, maybe instinct. But the moment I opened it, my blood turned to ice. Inside were pages and pages of handwritten notes, dates, times, my name written over and over again, and symbols I didn't recognize. Circles, crosses, strange markings that looked like they belonged in some kind of ritual. And in the center of one page, written in bold, underlined letters, was a sentence I'll never forget. Her time is running out. I slammed the notebook shut, my hands trembling. That's when I heard footsteps approaching. And her voice, calm and steady, right outside the pantry door. Find what you were looking for, dear? I froze, clutching that leather-bound notebook against my chest, like it might burn me if I held it too long. My heart was pounding so loudly I was terrified she could hear it through the pantry door. Her voice floated in again, deceptively gentle. Do you need help finding it? For a split second, I thought about slipping the notebook under my sweater and sneaking it out. But I couldn't risk it. If she caught me, if she realized I'd been snooping, I didn't know what she'd do, or what she might already be planning. So I shoved it back on the shelf, tucked neatly behind the cereal boxes, and grabbed the nearest jar I could find. When I stepped out, she was standing there, waiting. Her eyes flicked to my hands, then back to my face. A slow smile spread across her lips. Good girl. That's the one I wanted. I swear. It felt like she knew. The rest of the night, I barely spoke. I sat at the table, pushing food around my plate, while she carried on cheerful conversation with everyone else like nothing was wrong. But every now and then, she'd glance at me, just a flicker of her gaze. And each time, it felt like a warning. I know what you did. I know what you saw. When we finally left, I didn't even wait until we were in the car. The moment the front door closed behind us, I grabbed my husband's arm. She's keeping a journal about me, I hissed. She wrote it down. She wrote that my time is running out. He stopped in his tracks, staring at me like I'd just spoken another language. What? I saw it with my own eyes, I insisted. Pages full of dates, symbols, my name. She's writing about me, about something happening to me. He rubbed his temples, looking exhausted. You shouldn't have gone through her things. Are you serious right now? I snapped. That's what you're worried about? That I snooped? She literally has a death countdown in her pantry, and you're mad at me for looking? He opened his mouth, then shut it again. I could see the battle playing out on his face, logic fighting with fear, and fear was winning. Finally, he whispered, what if she's right? I didn't sleep at all that night. Every sound outside our window made me jump. Every creak of the house felt like footsteps. By morning, I felt like I'd aged 10 years. I couldn't keep living like this, waiting for the other shoe to drop. I needed answers. So the next day, while my husband was at work, I drove back to her house, alone. I told myself it was just to check, to make sure I hadn't imagined what I'd seen. But the truth is, I was desperate. I needed to understand. The house was quiet when I pulled up. No car in the driveway. I used the spare key my husband had given me months ago, telling myself it wasn't really breaking in if I technically had permission. Inside, the air felt heavier than usual, stale. Like the house was holding its breath. I went straight to the pantry. My hands shook as I moved the cereal boxes aside and pulled the journal down again. This time, I opened it carefully, flipping through page after page. The entries weren't random. They were detailed, precise. January 14th, the shadow grows closer. Both February 2nd, she stood beneath the cracked mirror. Omen confirmed. February 7th, she wore red today, a sign. She doesn't realize. And then, more recently, March 11th, the warning has been given. Tuesday will test her. March 19th, she found the book, not ready yet. I nearly dropped it. She knew I'd find it. She knew. And then I saw something that made my stomach turn. Tucked between the pages was a photograph. Not just any photograph. It was me, sleeping. The picture was taken in our bedroom, my head on the pillow, my arm draped across the blanket, peaceful, vulnerable. My blood turned to ice. How had she taken this? When had she been in my house? I shoved the photo back inside the journal and slammed it shut. My hands were trembling so badly I almost couldn't get it back on the shelf. That's when I heard it. The front door. Opening, closing. Footsteps. Sweetheart? Her voice called out, calm and steady. What are you doing here? I went cold. My body locked up, frozen in the pantry with no escape. She was back. And she knew I was here. My breath caught in my throat. I could hear her footsteps moving slowly across the hardwood floor, deliberate and unhurried, like she already knew exactly where I was. The pantry felt like it was shrinking around me, the air thick and suffocating. My pulse was pounding so loudly I was sure she could hear it from the other room. Sweetheart, she called again, her tone syrupy sweet. I asked you a question. What are you doing here? I clutched the edge of the shelf to steady myself. My mind was racing. Should I pretend I came for something innocent? Should I sneak out the back door? Or should I confront her right then and there? Before I could decide, her shadow appeared in the doorway. And then she was there, standing in the kitchen, apron still tied around her waist, holding a grocery bag in one hand. She looked perfectly normal, ordinary, except for her eyes. Her eyes locked onto mine like a hawk spotting its prey. I forced a shaky smile. I just came by to borrow some flour, I lied, my voice trembling. She tilted her head, studying me in silence for a long, terrifying moment. Then slowly, she set the grocery bag down on the counter. You were in the pantry a long time for flour, she said softly. I swallowed hard. I couldn't find it. Her smile widened. That's because you weren't looking for flour. The way she said it, calm, certain, almost amused, made my stomach twist into knots. I backed up a step, gripping the doorknob behind me. I think I should go. But before I could move, she spoke again. You saw it, didn't you? Her voice was low, almost a whisper. The book. My blood ran cold. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Her smile faded. She took a slow step toward me, her gaze never leaving my face. You shouldn't have touched it. It wasn't meant for you yet. Something inside me snapped. Maybe it was fear, maybe it was anger, but I couldn't stay silent anymore. What the hell is wrong with you? I burst out, my voice shaking but louder than I meant it to be. Why do you have my picture in black and white? Why are you writing about me in that journal? Why do you have photos of me sleeping? For the first time, her calm facade cracked. Her eyes flashed with something. Fear? Frustration? I couldn't tell. You don't understand, she said firmly. I'm trying to protect you. I let out a bitter laugh. Protect me? By staging a funeral photo? By sneaking into my bedroom while I'm asleep? Do you even hear yourself? She shook her head, her voice urgent now. It's not what you think. Everything I've done to keep you alive. Alive. The word hung heavy in the air. Before I could respond, I heard another voice behind me. My God! What's going on? I spun around. It was my husband, standing in the doorway, his face pale with shock. He must have followed me here. Did you know about this? I demanded, my voice breaking. Did you know she's been writing about me, watching me, taking pictures of me? His eyes darted between us, guilt written all over his face. She told me it was just superstitions, he admitted quietly. She said it wasn't dangerous. I stared at him in disbelief. Not dangerous? She has a shrine of me in her living room. My mother-in-law stepped forward quickly, placing a hand on his arm. Don't let her twist this. You know why I'm doing it. Do I? He asked, his voice trembling. For a moment, the three of us just stood there in silence, the tension so thick it felt like the air itself was about to split open. Finally, I whispered the only question that mattered. Then tell me. Tell me why you're doing this. Tell me what's in that book. Tell me the truth. Her eyes locked onto mine, and this time, I swear there was no malice in them, just something deeper, something terrifying in a different way. She took a deep breath. Because, she said softly, I know when you're going to die. The room spun. My husband grabbed my arm, but I barely felt it. My ears were ringing, my chest tight, as if the world had just tilted off its axis. You're insane, I whispered, completely insane. But the way she looked at me, calm, certain, almost sorrowful, made a tiny, treacherous part of me wonder, what if she wasn't wrong? The words hung in the air like a curse. I know when you're going to die. I wanted to laugh, scream, run, all at once. But instead, I just stood there, frozen. My husband's grip on my arm tightened, as if he was afraid I'd collapse. Mom, stop, he said, his voice breaking. This is too much. But she didn't even look at him. Her eyes stayed locked on mine, calm, steady, unshakable. You think I'm crazy? She said softly. I understand. Most people would. But everything I've done, every warning, every candle, every note, it's because I've seen it. I've seen what's coming. My throat felt dry, but somehow I managed to whisper, how? Her expression shifted, almost proud. Dreams. Premonitions. They started when I was young. At first I ignored them, thought they were nightmares. But when my father died, just the way I dreamed it, I realized they were warnings. And then it happened again and again. Every time, the dreams told me the truth. She paused, her eyes darkening. And now, they've shown me you. A chill ran down my spine so sharp it hurt. My husband shook his head. Mom, you can't do this. You can't just decide her life is over because of some dreams. She finally looked at him, her face tense. It's not a decision, it's fate. And pretending it isn't real won't change it. I staggered back, my hand pressing against the wall for support. Then what was the point of all this? I demanded. The candle? The journal? The warnings? If it's fate, why bother at all? Her eyes softened, and for a terrifying moment, I thought she might cry. Because sometimes, fate can be delayed. Not stopped, but delayed. I've seen it before. If I light the candle, if I mark the omens, if I prepare you, maybe you'll last longer. Maybe I can keep you safe. Safe. The word echoed in my head, but it felt twisted. Wrong. How could watching me, photographing me, writing about me in that book possibly make me safe? You expect me to believe that stalking me in my sleep is your way of protecting me? I snapped. Her lips pressed into a thin line. You'll understand when it happens. Something inside me snapped. No, I said firmly, my voice shaking but stronger than before. I don't care what you dreamed or what you think you saw. You don't get to decide my life. You don't get to hang my picture like I'm already dead. And you sure as hell don't get to break into my house and take pictures of me while I'm sleeping. The room went still. My husband's face was pale, caught between anger at his mother and fear for me. She, on the other hand, didn't flinch. She just watched me, her expression unreadable. Finally, she spoke, her voice lower than before. The day is closer than you think. I can feel it. That night, back at home, I locked every door, every window, every possible way someone could slip inside. But it didn't matter. I couldn't shake the feeling that her words had followed me, that they were lingering in the air around me, whispering in the dark. My husband tried to reassure me. She's just obsessive. You know how she gets. It's not real. But the thing is, he didn't sound convinced, and deep down, I wasn't convinced either. Because part of me kept replaying the fire alarm on Tuesday, the accident that lined up perfectly with her warning. What if she really did know something? I decided to test it. The next time I saw her, I asked casually, "So, have you had any more dreams lately?" Her eyes flicked up to mine, sharp and knowing. "Yes," she said without hesitation. I forced a laugh. "And what did they say this time?" Her answer chilled me to the bone. "They said you shouldn't go near water. Not this month. If you do, you won't come back." That night, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, the words circling in my mind like vultures. Not near water, not this month. You won't come back. I wanted to dismiss it as paranoia, but a small, traitorous part of me whispered, what if she's right again? For the next few days, her words echoed in my head every time I even touched a faucet. Don't go near water, not this month. If you do, you won't come back. I tried to laugh it off at first. Water? That was ridiculous. I wasn't about to suddenly drown in my bathtub or choke on a glass of orange juice. But then little things started happening. On Wednesday, the pipes under our kitchen sink burst out of nowhere, spraying water all over the floor. I slipped and nearly cracked my head against the counter before my husband managed to yank me out. On Friday, I was carrying a mug of tea to my desk when it slipped from my hands and shattered, scalding liquid splashing across my skin. And then on Sunday, while I was out shopping, I walked past a grocery aisle just as a stack of water bottles toppled off a shelf, crashing to the ground at my feet. Coincidences. That's what I told myself. Just coincidences. But late at night, when the house was quiet and my husband had drifted off to sleep, I kept thinking about the way she looked at me when she gave the warning. Calm, certain, as if she'd already seen me sink beneath the surface. The breaking point came the following week. It was supposed to be a simple dinner with friends. They had just moved into a new apartment complex, and they invited us over to celebrate. I was looking forward to it, anything to distract me from the constant dread that seemed to follow me everywhere. Everything was fine until I stepped out onto their balcony. From there, I could see the apartment's swimming pool, glowing blue under the night lights. It was nothing special, just a pool, like any other. But the moment I saw it, I froze. My chest tightened, and my breath came shallow. I couldn't stop staring. It was like the water itself was calling to me, whispering, waiting. "Hey, you okay?" my friend asked, touching my arm. I forced a smile. "Yeah, just a little dizzy." But the truth was, my whole body was screaming at me to stay away. I made an excuse to leave early, dragging my husband with me. And the moment we got home, I locked myself in the bathroom and stared at my reflection in the mirror. I looked pale, haunted, like someone who already believed their days were numbered. And maybe I did. The next morning, I confronted my husband. "This can't go on," I told him, my voice trembling. "She's controlling me. I can't even drink a glass of water without panicking. I feel like I'm living in a curse." He sighed heavily, rubbing his face. I know. But what do you want me to do? She's my mom. I can't just cut her off." "Then I will," I snapped. "I'm done with her. I don't care what she dreamed or what she thinks she saw. I'm not going near her again." He looked torn, but he didn't argue. Maybe he was just as scared as I was. For a week, I stayed away. No visits. No calls. I even blocked her number. And for a while, it almost felt normal again. I laughed at work. I cooked dinner without fear. I even took a long hot shower without thinking about her warning. But then, on Thursday, there was a knock at the door. When I opened it, no one was there. Just a small package on the mat. Inside was a single object, a seashell. White, smooth, polished, and tucked inside the curve of the shell, a folded piece of paper. I unfolded it with shaking hands. One sentence, written in her neat, careful handwriting. "The tide is rising. You can't avoid it. I dropped it like it burned me. My husband tried to calm me down, insisting it was just another mind game. But I knew better. This wasn't just paranoia anymore. She was escalating. And then, 2 days later, it happened. I was driving home from work when the rain started. At first, just a drizzle, then heavier. Then a downpour so thick my wipers couldn't keep up. The roads began to flood, cars slowed to a crawl, and suddenly, without warning, my tires hit a slick patch and I lost control. The car spun, skidding sideways, water splashing up on all sides. For a terrifying moment, I saw nothing but the shimmer of headlights reflecting off sheets of rain. Then the car lurched off the road, straight toward a drainage ditch overflowing with dark, rushing water. I screamed, and in that split second, I thought of her. Her words, her eyes, her certainty. Not near water, not this month. The world became a blur of rain and headlights. My hands gripped the steering wheel, but the car wasn't listening anymore. It had a mind of its own. The tires skidded, water roared beneath me, and for one terrifying second I thought, this is it. This is how it happens. The car slammed into the ditch with a sickening thud. Water surged up around the doors, cold and merciless, climbing fast. My seatbelt cut into my chest as I gasped for air. I clawed at the buckle, but my fingers were slippery, trembling too hard to work. Panic flooded through me as the water kept rising. Ankles, knees, waist. And then, just as my lungs were burning with the thought of drowning, the belt snapped free. I shoved the door open with all my strength. It fought back against the weight of the water, but somehow I managed to push through. The rain stung my face as I scrambled out, crawling onto the muddy bank, coughing, shivering, shaking so hard I could barely stand. I was alive, barely, but I couldn't ignore it anymore. She had been right. By the time the tow truck hauled my car out, my husband had already arrived, frantic. He wrapped his jacket around me, holding me close, but all I could hear was her voice in my head. Not near water, not this month. If you do, you won't come back. I should have been grateful. I should have been relieved to be alive, but instead I was terrified, because if she had been right about this, what else was she right about? That night, I sat on the edge of our bed, still in damp clothes, staring at the floor. My husband paced the room, running a hand through his hair. "This is insane," he muttered. "She's got you so scared you're making her dreams come true. That's all this is. Self-fulfilling prophecy." I shook my head slowly. "No. You didn't see it. The way the water rose, the way it trapped me. She warned me about this. She knew." He crouched in front of me, taking my hands. "Listen to yourself. You're giving her power she doesn't deserve. The more you believe her, the more control she has." His words made sense, logical sense. But logic didn't stop the memory of water filling my car. Logic didn't stop the way my chest tightened every time I thought of her. 2 days later, I got a call. It was her. I almost didn't answer, but some part of me, fear, anger, desperation, made me press accept. Her voice was calm, steady, like always. "You should thank me," she said. I felt my stomach turn. "Thank you? For what?" "For warning you," she replied. "You survived because I prepared you. If you hadn't known to be careful, you would have drowned." My hand clenched around the phone. "You don't get to take credit for that. You don't get to act like you saved me." She was silent for a moment, and then, almost tenderly, she said, "You think you escaped, but this isn't over." That was only the beginning, and she hung up. That night, I dreamed of her. She was standing at the edge of a dark lake, her reflection rippling on the water's surface. Behind her, the candle beneath my black and white photo flickered, its flame bending toward the water as if being pulled in. Her voice echoed across the lake. "You can't run from it. The water always finds its way." I woke up drenched in sweat, my sheets tangled around me like vines, and for the first time I realized something horrifying. It didn't matter if her warnings were real or if they were just in my head. Either way, she had me trapped. I started noticing things I'd never paid attention to before. Little details that once I saw them, I couldn't unsee. Like how my mother-in-law always wore the same necklace, a small silver charm shaped like a key. I'd seen it 100 times, never thought twice. But after the accident, I realized she never took it off. Not in the kitchen, not at church, not even while gardening, or how she had candles burning in nearly every room of her house. Not the scented kind you buy for decoration, plain white ones, low and steady, like they were serving a purpose. And the notebook. The one I'd seen in the pantry. If that was just one, how many more did she have hidden away? The more I thought about it, the more it felt like she wasn't just superstitious. She was practicing something I didn't understand, something dangerous. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. While my husband slept, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, searching. Dream premonitions, family curses, death omens. Most of what I found was nonsense. Blogs, forums, creepy stories meant to scare people. But one thread stopped me cold. It was on an obscure discussion board, a post titled, "When they start keeping records, it means the timeline is close." The writer described someone eerily similar to my mother-in-law, a woman who claimed to dream of deaths before they happened, a woman who kept journals filled with dates, names, symbols, and according to the post, these people didn't just see death, they attracted it. The more they wrote, the closer it came. I shut the laptop, my hands trembling. I told myself it was just internet nonsense, but deep down, a seed of doubt was already planted. Was my mother-in-law predicting my death or pulling me toward it? The next weekend, my husband insisted we visit again. We can't just avoid her forever, he said. It'll make things worse. Every part of me screamed not to go, but I went, because refusing would only prove to her how much control she had over me. When we arrived, the house felt different. The air was thicker, heavier, and the candle under my photo was still burning. I couldn't take my eyes off it. "Why haven't you blown it out?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. She looked at me calmly. "Because it's not finished yet," my husband frowned. "Mom, please, enough of this. You're scaring her." But she ignored him, her eyes fixed on me. "The candle burns until the danger passes. If I extinguish it too soon, it will call the end closer." Later that evening, while the others were in the kitchen, I slipped into the hallway. Something inside me told me to look again, to find proof. I opened the door to her bedroom. It smelled of lavender and wax, and on the dresser, another notebook. This one wasn't like the one in the pantry. It was smaller, bound in dark green fabric. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside, page after page of sketches. Not words this time, but drawings. Circles with waves cutting through them. A woman's figure, faceless, standing beneath what looked like falling water. And in the corner of one page, written in her careful hand, was a date. April 17th. My stomach dropped. That was less than 2 weeks away. Suddenly, a voice cut through the silence. "You weren't supposed to see that." I spun around. She was standing in the doorway, her face shadowed, her eyes unreadable. For the first time, she didn't look calm. She looked angry. "You don't understand," she said sharply. "You think you're fighting me, but you're fighting what's already written. And the more you fight, the faster it comes." Her gaze bore into mine, cold, certain. April 17th. "That's the day. No matter what you do." I stumbled back, clutching the notebook to my chest. "You're insane," I whispered. Completely insane. But as I ran out of that room, one thought echoed louder than my own heartbeat. What if she wasn't lying? After that night, April 17th became a ticking clock in my head. Every morning I woke up and counted the days left. 14, 13, 12. The number followed me everywhere. On receipts, on digital clocks, on calendars at work. It didn't matter how much I tried to ignore it. I felt like I was walking towards something I couldn't avoid, and my mother-in-law's words haunted me. April 17th, that's the day. No matter what you do. I tried to tell myself it was nonsense, just the ramblings of a woman who'd lost touch with reality. But then I remembered the fire alarm on Tuesday, the accident with the water, the notebook sketches. Coincidences don't line up that neatly. The more I obsessed over it, the more my husband grew frustrated. "You're letting her win," he said one night, pacing the bedroom. "She wants you scared. That's the power she feeds on. If you stop listening to her, it stops controlling you." But he didn't understand. I wasn't just scared, I was convinced. Because every time I closed my eyes, I saw water. Waves crashing, rivers overflowing, dark lakes swallowing me whole. And always, the flicker of that candle, burning steady beneath my picture. A week before the 17th, I decided to do something desperate. I went back to her house, alone. Not to confront her, not to argue, but to see if there was more. More notebooks, more drawings, more proof that this wasn't just in my head. The house was quiet when I entered, too quiet. My footsteps echoed against the wooden floors as I searched room by room. And then, in the basement, I found it. A locked trunk. It was tucked in the corner beneath a dusty quilt, as if it had been forgotten, but I knew immediately it hadn't been. The lock wasn't strong, just a small brass clasp. With shaking hands, I pried it open. Inside were stacks of notebooks. Not one, not two, dozens. Some old and worn, the pages yellowed, others newer, with crisp paper and fresh ink. I flipped through them, and my breath caught in my throat. Every single one was filled with names I recognized. Her father, her sister, a neighbor I'd heard her mention once, even her late husband, and next to each name, dates, times, and symbols. Always the same strange circles, waves, and marks. And in every case, the dates matched the deaths. She had predicted them all. I stumbled back, nearly dropping the book in my hands. My stomach turned to ice. She wasn't just obsessed. She wasn't just superstitious. She had a record, a history. And now, my name was in the newest book. Suddenly, I heard the creak of footsteps above me. She was home. Panic surged through me. I stuffed the notebook back in the trunk and slammed it shut, shoving the quilt over it just as her voice floated down the stairs. "Sweetheart? What are you doing down there?" I froze. My heart hammered so loudly it drowned out everything else. I forced my voice steady. "Just looking for extra chairs." A pause. Then her calm reply, "There are no chairs down there." I didn't wait for her to come closer. I bolted up the stairs, brushing past her before she could stop me. Her eyes followed me the whole way, calm and steady, like she already knew what I'd found. When I reached the front door, she called out after me, "You can run all you want, but April 17 is coming." Back home, I locked myself in the bedroom and told my husband everything. The trunk, the notebooks, the names, The dates? His face went pale. This is impossible, he whispered. But he didn't sound convinced. He sounded scared. And so was I. Because if she had been right about everyone else, what if she was right about me too? April 17th was less than a week away, and I was running out of time. From that moment on, April 17th wasn't just a date. It was a shadow hanging over me, a ticking clock I couldn't silence. 6 days. 5. 4. Each sunrise felt heavier than the last. I tried to pretend life was normal, but paranoia seeped into everything. When I crossed the street, I flinched at every passing car. When I cooked, I checked the stove burners 3 times before walking away. When I showered, I kept the water lukewarm and fast, terrified of slipping. I was alive, but I wasn't living. I was waiting. My husband did his best to reassure me, though I could see the fear in his own eyes. She doesn't control the universe, he told me one night, holding me close. She doesn't decide when you live or die. You do. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But when I closed my eyes, I kept seeing the notebooks, the names, the dates that all lined up, and always my name written in her careful handwriting. On April 14th, 3 days before the date, I got another package on our doorstep. This time, it wasn't a seashell. It was a small, white candle, unlit, and a note. Don't fight it. If you do, it will hurt worse. I dropped it on the floor like it was poisoned. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. My husband burned the note in the sink, but it didn't help. The words were already burned into me. On April 15th, I woke from a nightmare so vivid I could still feel the water in my lungs. I saw myself thrashing in a river, the current dragging me under, her voice echoing, "The water always finds its way." I jolted awake, gasping, clawing at the sheets, certain for a moment that I was drowning for real. My husband held me, whispering that it was just a dream, but I knew better. It wasn't just a dream, it was a warning. By April 16th, I couldn't sit still. I wandered the house like a ghost, jumping at every creak and shadow. I refused to leave, refused to answer the phone, refused to do anything that might expose me to risk. If I just stay here, I whispered to myself, nothing can happen. I'll be safe. But then, as if mocking me, the power went out. The house plunged into darkness, and when I lit a candle to see, my breath caught in my throat, because the flame bent, not straight upward but sideways, toward me. Just like in the dream. That night, I barely slept. Every tick of the clock was another nail in the coffin of my sanity. And then, finally, the sun rose. April 17th. I sat at the kitchen table all morning, staring at the clock. My husband refused to go to work, sitting beside me, his hand clasping mine. We didn't speak much. What was there to say? Every minute felt like stolen time. By noon, I was trembling so badly I could barely hold my glass of water. By 3 p.m., I was convinced every sound outside was the beginning of the end. By 6 p.m., I was numb. And then, as the clock struck 7:13, there was a knock at the door. Slow, steady. I already knew who it was. When I opened the door, she was standing there, my mother-in-law, her eyes calm, her hands folded neatly in front of her, and behind her, a candle, lit, flickering in the evening breeze. She smiled softly. It's time. I stood frozen in the doorway, my breath shallow, my entire body trembling. Behind her, the candle flame wavered, almost bowing toward me like it was alive. It's time, she repeated, her voice calm, steady, almost gentle. My husband appeared at my side in an instant. Mom, what the hell are you doing? His voice cracked, caught between anger and fear. She didn't look at him. Her eyes were locked on me, unblinking. Sweetheart, she said softly, you need to come with me, right now. Every part of me screamed to slam the door, to run, to hide. But something in her tone, urgent, certain, rooted me in place. Why? I managed to whisper, her lips curved in the faintest smile. Because if you stay here, it'll happen. If you come with me, I can stop it. My husband stepped forward, blocking her view of me. You're not taking her anywhere. Her eyes finally shifted to him, cold, sharp. If she stays here, she dies tonight. Do you want that on your conscience? The air felt heavy, suffocating, like the walls themselves were closing in. Stop! I cried out, my voice breaking. Stop saying that. You don't know anything. She tilted her head, her expression unreadable. Haven't I been right so far? The fire alarm. The accident with the car. The dates. The names. The notebooks. I wanted to scream no, but the word caught in my throat, because deep down, I wasn't sure anymore. My husband grabbed my hand. We're not going anywhere with you. You need help, Mom. Professional help. Her smile faded. For the first time, she looked desperate. You don't understand, she said, her voice rising. I've done everything to delay it. I've kept the candle burning. I've given the warnings. I've carried this burden alone. But the moment the sun sets tonight, the choice won't be mine anymore. It'll be hers. Her eyes snapped back to me. And in that moment, I felt it. Like the ground beneath me shifted, like something unseen had just settled on my shoulders. A weight. A pull. I stumbled back, shaking my head. No, this isn't real. You're trying to control me. You're trying to... But before I could finish, the lights flickered. Once, twice, and then went out. Darkness swallowed the room, broken only by the flicker of her candle outside the door. My husband cursed, fumbling for his phone flashlight. But my mother-in-law just stood there, the glow of the flame dancing across her face, calm as ever. "It's starting," she whispered. The air grew colder. I don't know how else to explain it. It wasn't just a power outage. It felt like something was moving through the house, something unseen. I clutched my husband's arm, my chest tightening. "Do you feel that?" I whispered. He swallowed hard. "It's just the power," but his voice shook, and she smiled. "You feel it too," she said softly. "That's why you can't deny me anymore. I'm the only one who can hold it back." I wanted to slam the door in her face. I wanted to scream, but before I could, she lifted the candle higher. "Come with me," she urged, her voice low, hypnotic. "Let me guide you through tonight. If you stay here, the house will take you. If you leave with me, I can delay it again." My husband shook his head violently. "She's manipulating you. Don't listen." But my body wouldn't move, because in the pit of my stomach, a terrifying thought had taken root. What if she's right? The three of us stood there in silence, the flicker of the candle the only light between us. Then, slowly, I heard it. A sound. Faint. Low. Like rushing water, but there were no pipes running, no faucets turned on. It was coming from inside the house. I gasped, my knees nearly giving out. "Do you hear that?" My husband shook his head, but my mother-in-law's smile deepened. "It's here," she whispered, "and it's not leaving without you." At first I thought I was imagining it, that low, distant rush, like waves pounding ashore miles away. But the sound grew louder, closer, until it filled the house. Rushing water. My husband grabbed my hand. "It's nothing, it's in your head." "No," I whispered, my chest tight. "It's real. I can hear it." And then, my worst fear was confirmed. From the hallway, dark streaks of water began snaking down the walls. Not leaks, not drips, flooding. The floorboards groaned as water pooled, spreading across the tiles, inch by inch toward us. I stumbled back, heart pounding. "Oh my God, it's happening." My mother-in-law's voice cut through the chaos, calm but urgent. "Come with me now. I can hold it back, but only if you trust me." Her candle flickered in the doorway, its light steady despite the growing darkness and water pooling at our feet. My husband swore under his breath, pulling me closer. "No, this is impossible. It's a trick. She's making you believe." But even as he spoke, the water rose higher, cold against my ankles, then my calves. And then I saw it, a reflection in the water, not mine, not his, hers, standing directly behind me, though when I turned, no one was there. I screamed, stumbling into my husband's arms. The water surged faster, crawling up the walls, dripping from the ceiling, gushing under doors. It was everywhere, surrounding us, drowning us. I choked out the words, trembling. "What do we do?" My mother-in-law lifted the candle higher, her eyes glowing in the light. "Choose," she said softly. "Stay, and let it take you, or come with me, and I'll delay it, but only for a while." My husband shouted, "Don't listen! It's all in your head. She's feeding you this fear." But how could I not listen when the water was real, when I could feel its icy grip climbing higher, pulling at me? I sobbed, torn in two. "I don't want to die." "You won't," she promised, her voice steady, certain. "Not if you trust me." Her candlelight wavered in the dark, the only steady thing in the chaos around me. Then, suddenly, the water stopped rising. It froze, mid-rush, like a paused river, and the house went silent. My husband and I exchanged a look, both gasping, dripping, clutching each other. And then my mother-in-law whispered, "It's waiting, but not for me, for you." Her eyes locked onto mine, filled with something I couldn't name. Fear, pity, maybe even love. "You can't hide from it anymore. You can only choose how to face it." I shook my head, sobbing. "This isn't real. This isn't—" But the floor beneath me groaned, and with a violent crack, the boards splintered open. Water erupted upward like a geyser, icy and black, swallowing the ground beneath my feet. I screamed as my husband pulled me back, but the current was too strong. It dragged me toward the opening, toward the dark flood below, and above the roar, I heard her voice one last time. April 17th. The water always finds its way. The current dragged me down with a force I didn't think possible inside a house. My hands clawed at the floorboards, splinters cutting into my skin, but it was useless. The water was alive. It wanted me. "No!" my husband screamed, his grip locked on my wrist, pulling with everything he had. But the current was stronger. It yanked me toward the opening, toward the endless black beneath the floor. I couldn't breathe. My chest burned as icy water filled my mouth, my nose, my lungs. And then, through the chaos, I saw her, my mother-in-law, still standing in the doorway, calm as ever, the candle in her hand glowing steady against the storm. Her lips moved, whispering something I couldn't hear. And suddenly, the pull lessened, the water paused. Just enough for me to break the surface. I coughed and gasped, my husband yanking me fully out of the flood's grip. We collapsed together on the soaked floor, shivering, shaking, clinging to each other. When I looked up, she was gone. The candle too. And with her absence, the water began to drain. Faster than it had come, it receded, vanishing into the cracks, leaving nothing but puddles and silence. The house was still again, as if nothing had happened. I lay there trembling, my husband holding me like I might disappear if he let go. "What the hell was that?" he whispered, his voice broken. I couldn't answer, because I didn't know. All I knew was this: she had saved me, or delayed it. I didn't know which. We didn't sleep that night. We sat in the living room, lights on, wrapped in blankets, too terrified to close our eyes. Around 4 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text message from her. One sentence: "You made it through, but it's not over." My blood went cold. When the sun finally rose, my husband drove us straight to her house. We didn't even knock. We burst inside, desperate for answers. But the house was empty. No sign of her. The notebooks were gone. The candles. Gone. It was as if she had vanished, taking every trace of her obsession with her. Days passed, weeks, no word from her. No visits, no texts, no calls. The only thing left was the black and white photo of me on her wall, except now. The candle beneath it was burned down to nothing but wax. I should have felt relief. But instead, a pit of dread sat heavy in my chest, because if she was right before, if she could delay fate but not stop it, then maybe she was still out there, watching. Waiting for the day when fate finally caught up with me. Weeks turned into months. At first, every day felt like a stolen gift. I woke up expecting to see water rushing through the walls again, to feel that icy grip pulling me under, but it never came. Life began to creep back into normal. Work, dinners, laughter. It all returned slowly, like light filtering into a room that had been dark for too long. My husband and I stopped talking about his mother. It was easier to pretend she didn't exist than to reopen the wound she left behind. But even in silence, she lingered. Every shadow made me flinch. Every drip from a faucet made my chest tighten. Every calendar date made me wonder if it would be the one. And always, I thought of her last words to me: "You made it through. But it's not over." One evening, nearly 3 months after April 17th, I decided to confront my fear head-on. I went back to her house. The door was unlocked, the air inside stale and cold. Dust had settled over everything. It looked abandoned, like no one had lived there for years. But the photo wall was still there. I walked slowly to the corner where my black and white picture once hung. My heart raced, my palms slick with sweat. The photo was gone. In its place, there was an empty frame, and beneath it, another candle, fresh, unlit, waiting. I don't know how long I stood there staring at that empty frame. It felt like a message, a warning, or maybe a promise. I whispered into the silence, "Is it over?" No one answered. That night, I dreamed of her again. She stood at the edge of the same dark lake as before, the water calm and endless. But this time, there was no candle, no warnings, just her voice, soft and steady. "You escaped once, maybe twice, but you can't escape forever. The water always finds its way." When I woke, my pillow was damp with tears, or maybe something else. I don't know where she is now. I don't know if she's alive or gone or watching me from somewhere I can't see. All I know is this: when I pass a mirror, sometimes I see ripples. When I wash my hands, sometimes the water clings too long. And when I close my eyes, sometimes I hear it, that low rushing sound, waiting for me in the dark. Maybe she was crazy. Maybe she cursed me. Or maybe she was right all along. Because no matter how far I run, no matter how long I fight, the water always finds its way.